What's up, guys? Welcome to Neek, which stands for Nerd/Geek. And Minari is a movie I've been wanting to watch for quite a while, and it finally hit VOD for the $20 rental. And this is the first time that I've done like a $20 rental for a movie. I watched it with my family, and it was actually definitely worth it. So yeah, I love this movie. I thought it was amazing. And there's a lot of different reasons why, so let's just get into this review. And the first thing I want to talk about is the cinematography is really well done. I really like how they color everything. I like how they frame the shots. All of it just looks really beautiful, and they're able to do a lot with not that many like sets and stuff. They're still able to do a lot of really good things with the cinematography. There's a bunch of shots that I just really liked in this movie. The score is also really great, and I think it really works with this sort of movie. This film also explores stuff that I think a lot of people relate to with being immigrants and this sort of American dream, trying to achieve it, trying to do its best for your kids. All these sort of ideas and stuff I think lots of people can relate to, and it does it in a very real way, but it's never boring in my opinion. I think the pacing is really well done. It's really entertaining. There is quite a bit of humor. I'll talk about that later. So you don't really get bored while doing it, while it still feels very real, which I think is a great way to do something like this. And yeah, the pacing, as I said, is really good, because lots of times with these movies that don't have a very tight plot, it's more loose with the plot, and it's just a lot more hanging out around stuff. Lots of times the movie can feel a lot longer than it is. When this movie, I actually thought it felt like shorter than it is. As I was watching through it, I paused it for a second, and I noticed I'm already an hour into the movie. I'm over halfway. I didn't feel that. It moves really nicely. But the absolute best thing about this movie is the characters. So first I want to talk about Jacob and Monica, our two parents we got here. Jacob, who, by the way, is played excellently by Stephen Young, doesn't have the biggest ambitions ever, but he does have one thing he really wants. He wants to have a farm. That's his one thing. He just wants to do it. But he also thinks that by doing this, it will give his kids a better life. If this succeeds, then the kids will have a better life than they do now. And Monica, on the other hand, thinks keeping things the way they are is the best way to help their kids, because there's no risk. Things are going well enough. We can just keep it how it is. Our kids can have a better life. Like, whatever. And both of like their conflicting opinions start to build, and they start to go farther apart. They seem on sort of the same level at the beginning, but as it goes on, it starts like widening as their problems start coming up, a lot of like relationship things, and the characters move farther away from each other, and Jacob decides the farm is more important than his kids, and that's sort of the thing. It's no longer just about his kids. It seems to be about the farm, and that's just pulling them apart. And the movie does a really good job of showing you like where both parents are coming from. I was more on the side with Monica, but there were definitely points where I was on the side with David, or sort of on both, and I always wanted the best for both of them. I was always trying to root for both of them. They did a good job of making both of them likable, and you want both of them to succeed. You can obviously see why Monica wants the best for her kids, but you can also see why Jacob just really needs his farm to succeed, because he feels like he put so much work into it, and he can't let it be for nothing. Also, he feels like he needs his kids to see him succeed at something. He thinks that's important. So it's just a bunch of conflicting ideas where you can see where both people are coming from, which leads to a bunch of really interesting conversations with these characters, and some really interesting dialogue between them as they're trying to figure things out, deal with their problems and everything. And these two characters aren't even the best characters. That would go to David and the grandma. So David doesn't really feel Korean. He feels American because, that's where he lives. That's where he grew up. But that's not how other people see him. You see at like church with the other kids, people judge him with like talking about him and sort of see him differently as a Korean. So when his Korean grandma, who he had never met before, shows up to live with his house and stay in his room, you can kind of see why he'd want the pushback. He doesn't want to have to deal with that stuff, because I think that's an understanding thing, and I feel like lots of people can relate to that, not feeling Korean or not feeling American. That's just obviously one example. Like, it could be from anywhere. And Sunja is not your average grandma. As David says,
할머니는 진짜 할머니 같지 않아요.
할머니 같은 게 뭔데?
쿠키도 만들고 나쁜 말도 안 하고 남자 팬티도 안 입고.
But yeah, I think both characters are very funny, just very funny characters. There's so many like hilarious moments with them and just lively characters. And I love to see their relationship grow from not where David doesn't really like her at the beginning, doesn't even want to talk to her, to them ending up having this nice relationship. And I think it makes sense why he starts to sort of like her more and like talk to her more and that sort of stuff. She is the first person to tell him he's strong, because he has a bunch of health problems and stuff. He's always seen as weak, and she shows him, you're strong, look at you. So I can totally see why he would start to ease up on her. And then you have this really emotional moment between them. If you have seen the movie, you totally know what I'm talking about. That scene with them, that's great. Also, both of their performances were amazing. I was super impressed with David Kim. This is his first ever movie, and he was only like 7 years old when he filmed it. Like, that is crazy, man. Like, how's your comedic timing so good? And how are you just such a good actor overall? After one movie, being 7 years old, that's amazing. And the person who plays the grandma is also really great. I hope she gets a Best Supporting Actress nomination. Actually, I hope this movie just gets a lot of nominations at the Oscars, because this movie totally deserves it. So yeah, overall, this is an amazing movie that I highly recommend you go check out this movie. Yeah, that's really all I have to say. Comment down below, have you seen the movie? If so, what did you think about it? Please like and subscribe, and keep watching Neek.